distinguished gentlemen, ladies, it's a morning which is coming with a new message. The message is technology is all around us, but there is bad news. The first bad news is the illegal trade in artificial intelligence, child sex abuse images has been growing. Some bit has been now exposed, but the new technology is now being often used by drug traffickers in a far more efficient manner. And as our previous panelist said, these traffickers and these illegal guys are far ahead as far as government and law enforcement agencies are concerned. No wonder they are constantly targeting all kinds of stakeholders, whether it's an e-commerce firms which are getting targeted by API and web app attacks, or whether it's a company like Volkswagen, which has actually been stuck up in a neutral zone after a huge IT disruption that's happened on their network. Well, by and large, we're finding that countries are beginning to feel the bite of this illegal illicit trade, because it's beginning to start having an impact upon the economies of the world at large. Illicit trade is very popular. Why should it not be? Right? It's easy money, it's much more efficient, much more better, and they have a huge market. But right now, with the advent of newly emerging technologies, you can utilize these technologies for the purposes of trying to fight the menace of illicit trade. The biggest technology that we have in our hand is artificial intelligence. Well, the World Economic Forum tells us that the value of illicit trade is close to $3 trillion, which is equivalent to 10% of the world trade and is between 8 to 15% of the global GDP. One new thing that's happening is remote sensing. If we can utilize that in the right manner, then to a large extent, we can deal with these emerging challenges pertaining to the illicit trade, because with the 3D imaging, with the remote sensing, you can potentially even track the movement of illicit drugs and then take effective action in this regard. But I think 30th of November 2022 has been a landmark day. Why? Because that's the day ChatGPT was introduced. How many of you in this room use ChatGPT? Please raise your hands. Oh, I'm surprised. A majority of people are using ChatGPT. But like you are using, the cyber criminals are also using ChatGPT. And ChatGPT says, I'm work in progress. Its terms and conditions and privacy policy says, I'm work in progress, don't misuse me. But if you misuse me, you will be responsible. So clearly, this message has not really gone down pretty well as far as cyber criminals are concerned, because they have begun to start using ChatGPT and these newly emerging tools for a variety of illegal purposes. For example, if I'm an illicit trafficker or a trader, and I want new, innovative, customized mechanisms and strategies of how to go ahead and deal with these kinds of illegal trades, I will go to ChatGPT, and if I know prompt command engineering properly, then of course I have on the ball. I'm actually laughing all my way to the bank. But without realizing that ChatGPT has got its own problems. It's hallucinating a lot. More significantly, in case if you're going to rely upon the output of ChatGPT, you could even potentially be having some legal problems. Two lawyers have faced fines in the US because they relied upon an output of ChatGPT. So somewhere down the line, if we have to make sure that programs like ChatGPT and artificial intelligence are not misused by these cyber criminals, it's imperative that the responsibility must be put on the coders. They will have to put appropriate code safeguards so that this technology should not be capable of being used by these illicit traders. Because today, if you know prompt command engineering, ChatGPT is now dishing you new kinds of cyber crimes, new variations, new mantras, new avatars. But then that's history. Come March 2023, and OpenAI launched this paid platform called GPT-4, which is a far more advanced version of generative artificial intelligence, which is far more effective. But please realize it's only $20 a month. And cyber criminals are happy to pay that $20 and go ahead and misuse this latest technology for the purposes of facilitating this so-called e-trade or illicit trade. So clearly, legal frameworks become very important. Each country has in place appropriate cyber law frameworks for trying to control and regulate the e-format. In India, we have the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, which is a 23-year-old legislation. But it does not talk about illicit trade. It does not talk about the issues which we are talking in the present conference, but nonetheless, it grants legality to the electronic format as we go forward. So in this ecosystem, before I start talking about these newly emerging technologies, I want to focus on cyber security. See, these illicit traders are something like radiation, and this is all around us. So we will have to start protecting our economies, our businesses, and our processes from this illicit radiation exposure. And that can only happen if we can strengthen our cyber security. The need for adopting cyber security as a way of life becomes an absolute necessity in case if we really want to march towards digital transformation, and in case we want these illicit elements not to go ahead and disrupt our economic march as we go forward. Therefore, the need for the genuine players to incorporate cyber security as standards of operating businesses should become a good starting point. Today, blockchains has emerged as a very, very mature technology. It's not just only now bitcoins. But please realize, while this new technology is coming in for constructive usages, we are now finding that cyber criminals are misusing blockchain for criminal, illegal purposes, including for illicit trade. And therefore, we will have to come up with appropriate mechanisms. Needless to say, the bitcoins of the world, the Ethereums of the world have become the de facto new currency, which are being relied upon by the illicit traders, because usage of these currencies effectively means that there are no traces to trace them, to go ahead and prosecute them in accordance with law. Another new technology that these illicit traders are using, which we can also potentially address, is Internet of Things. Now, you would think, what would an Alexa or an Echo have to do with illicit trade? Hold on. These guys are now coming up with new, innovative approaches to misuse the Internet of Things and Internet of Behaviors to go ahead and proliferate their illegal activities. And therefore, appropriate regulation will have to be the mantra as we go forward. Facial recognition is happening so much, but these guys are now beginning to come up with new mechanisms to bypass facial recognition. So when I look at Tom Cruise movies and I look at these face masks coming up and down, it's no longer science fiction. It's now happening right here. And therefore, going ahead and bypassing the facial recognition mechanisms for doing illicit trade is also emerging as an important contour of the landscape as we go forward. I thought new technologies like metaverse would come in and things would be different. But I was mistaken. Sorry. But metaverse is the new avatar of the internet, which is the current world internet, plus augmented reality and virtual reality mixed together. And you thought that's going to be a safe haven. Sorry, it's not. Today, these illicit traders have started operations on metaverse, offering their illegal products, their illicit goods on the metaverse with avatars who are actually going ahead and patronizing these kinds of activities. So these will also have to be appropriately regulated as we go forward. So let's quickly realize that we are excited with new technology, but cyber criminals are 10 steps ahead of us in terms of not just conceptualizing new technology, but also going ahead and misusing the same as we go forward. And now with post-COVID-19, almost all of us have started connecting to the network by our devices. Therefore, edge security becomes important. And these very guys have begun to start infiltrating in the edge security. So if I'm in a big company and there are 5,000 devices that are getting connected to my ecosystem, if I don't have in place appropriate safeguards, the chances of these illicit guys coming in as one of the so-called legitimate devices and accessing my genuine trade secrets, my confidential data, and then misusing the same is very, very high. And therefore, those issues will also have to be addressed as we go forward. We are all working and moving towards a global decentralized economy. The Web 3.0 is the new buzzword of the world as far as new emerging technologies is concerned. But then this decentralized economy is also what these cyber criminals are increasingly focusing on for the purposes of perpetuating and constantly growing their so-called illicit activities in the context of crypto systems and crypto assets. brings us to a new context, digital assets. These digital assets are new. We are all creating them. In fact, we are all now become data entities. We have become global authors, global broadcasters, and global transmitters of data. No wonder we are generating assets, generating digital assets. And therefore, going ahead and stealing those digital assets has become the new found passion of these cyber criminals. So going ahead and infiltrating your networks, hacking your systems, picking up your assets, and then going ahead and making spurious copies of those assets is also a new phenomenon that I think lawmakers will have to look at. But nobody, just about nobody, is talking about the dark net. This is the deep underbelly of the internet, where you're completely anonymous, where your identity is not there. And therefore, there's one particular browser, the onion router browser, that completely protects you. And this is now the heaven that these illicit traders and illicit elements have begun to start adopting in a big way. On the dark net, cybercrime as an economy is the existing model. And the new variation these days that have emerged is cybercrime as a service powered by artificial intelligence. So these guys are now no longer going ahead and dirtying their hands. They're going on to the dark net. They're ordering the illegal, illicit activities to these unknown actors who take monies in bitcoins and other crypto assets and then get the said illegal activities done through artificial intelligence algorithms. So that in the worst case scenario, the law enforcement agencies identify you. They'll only be able to identify up to the artificial intelligence algorithm. It will never be able to reach out to you personally. So that's now the new level of challenge that I think law enforcement agencies are going to face. Therefore, in the context of harnessing the power of these new age technologies, I think it's an emerging area. But then it is also an area where a lot of legal and policy issues are quickly arising on the horizon. And I think all stakeholders will have to start addressing these issues. Let's look at some of this. Data privacy and security. Now, if you are a genuine company, it's your primary responsibility to go ahead and protect your data privacy and data security. Because if you are going to keep the doors of your house open, the thief is in any case going to come and steal your secrets and go away. So primary responsibility lies on the genuine stakeholders. But then the issues of intellectual property rights also emerge in the context of use of these new emerging technologies. Because technology can help you identify and combat counterfeiting and piracy, which are violations of intellectual property right. But how do you actually go ahead and prosecute them in the courts of law where electronic evidence has become the most crucial evidence? And if you're not able to go ahead and produce the evidence in accordance with law, you are not going to be successful. Further, internet has made geography history. With the result, now people sitting anywhere in the world could go ahead and target your products for illicit marketing or trade. How do you get them to the book is a big issue that we've not been able to solve. Also, how do we authenticate and verify, more so in the context of use of blockchains, RFID technology and other solutions. This is going to be a very, very complex scenario that stakeholders will have to look at. Supply chain transparency will have to be a very important element as we go forward, because once there's transparency through use of adequate technology, it can help us deal with the menace of the illicit trade. Further, as far as the law enforcement and the surveillance aspects are concerned, I think the use of very advanced surveillance technologies and artificial intelligence by law enforcement agencies to combat illicit trade is actually beginning to start raising civil concerns about violations of privacy, of human rights. And I think striking a golden balance between protecting rights and protecting the interests of legitimate business owners has to be the way forward. And finally, liability issues. Well, technology can definitely be used for preventing illicit trade, but the question of liability is going to arise in cases if your technology is obviously a false positive. I think I'm just going to close. We can talk about ethical considerations. Bottom line is, let's focus all on capacity building, and that's the need of the hour. That's why programs like these are important. So even the judges of the International Court of Justice require capacity building, which I did a couple of years back. We created a platform for creating more capacity building called cyberlawuniversity.com. We offer 37 courses online, and these courses have already been done by 29,500 professionals from 174 countries. Bottom line is, Before I close, I'm inviting all of you to this big international conference, the International Conference on Cyber Law, Cybercrime and Cybersecurity, 29th, 30th November, 1st December, focusing on rise of emerging technologies and their impact. 130 organizations globally are supporting this event. Let's today join hands to harness the power of emerging technologies in preventing illicit trade, but then legal and policy ramifications will have to play a very important role in this event. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.